Light the beam! Light the beam! Light the beam! Light the beam!
Light the beam.
You want to do a couple?
Light the beam.
Okay, well, I'm going to use that one. As the woman said, light the beam. We are back on the Sports Cave, broadcasting once again live to tape here on the east side of San Antonio, where we find ourselves 14 days away, a mere 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL draft, 2 Thursdays away. I am your host, as always, Sam Freas. If you want to reach out to the program, you can find me on X at Biggest Puma, on Instagram, biggest.puma, where I swear, I'm a man of my word. I have been more active on Instagram. We're still building that platform, but I appreciate y'all that have followed along here in the last week. I've seen a good uptick in followers on the old Instagram, which makes the corporate overlords happy as well. And if you hadn't already guessed, the roommate is in here with me because we are getting ready to head to Port Aransas again for a nice little weekend away. So might even have some more footage, some more content for Instagram coming this weekend. Hell, might even make the first post, but all of that can wait. Today, I finally got my buddy Tobey on to fully give a solid hour of Luka talk. Obviously, last night, Luka makes his return to Dallas. So that'll be the main segment today. If you missed Monday's live episode, do me a favor, go to YouTube at Sports Cave Live. Give us a subscription there. Completely free, won't cost you anything except the time it takes to go to the page. Give a like to those videos if you don't mind. Apparently that is important, or at least that's what LG tells me. And as always, the audio version is also out wherever you get your podcasts. So going to talk a lot of Luka in the main segment. But before we get into that, as always, we start with what I watched last night. And of course, as you can imagine, it was a Luka-centric night of sports viewing, from the player introductions where he starts to cry already, all the way through every Fire Nico chant we heard throughout the game, including 4 seconds into the game as the Lakers went to the free throw line early. But also last night we had a potential yay boo situation for the Spurs. Spurs play late night in Golden State, end up winning on a buzzer beater from former Warrior Harrison Barnes. And I say yay boo because there's a slim chance that the Spurs can move any direction in the standings. And at this point, it's all about preserving your draft odds. So it's good emotionally for the group to have a win like that, especially the way that final half minute played out last night. But that being said, you don't want to see them do anything that's going to affect their draft odds at this point, because they are eliminated. The Suns are eliminated. We know who the play-in teams are going to be. But I mentioned the feel-good of a buzzer beater is always good for the group, although slim chance that this win ends up costing them draft position. I don't think that's going to be the case, so I'm not to get too worried about the overall impact of last night. Just enjoy that moment, because I mentioned the final 30 seconds of that game went back and forth 3 different times. You had Keldon tying the game up with half a minute left, and then ends up getting the go-ahead layup with 11 seconds left. You think we're feeling good about things, and then sometimes the way sports is, you get an instant high and an instant low, or vice versa. And last night for Harrison Barnes, it felt like it was going from an instant high of Keldon Johnson getting the go-ahead layup to then an instant low of Harrison fouling Draymond. Draymond makes both free throws, ties it up at 111. But that merely set the stage for Harrison to get back to the ultimate high of having the buzzer beater three-pointer over Jimmy Butler to win it. Spurs end up winning 114-111. Not going to spend, there's only 2 games left in the season, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time breaking these meaningless games down the rest of the way. But I will say They travel to Phoenix on Friday, tomorrow, to play the Suns. The Suns are 2 wins ahead of them in the column, so technically the Spurs could catch them. I'd have to double check tiebreakers to see if that would end up affecting their playoff odds or their draft lottery odds. But for the most part, the Spurs are locked in where they currently stand. There's not going to be a lot of movement the rest of the season over these last 2 games. But the things you like to see, obviously the buzzer beater, feel-good win. Steph Castle pouring in an efficient 21 points, 8 of 15 shooting. But most importantly, I think if you look at his box score, the 35 minutes played, that's what you need to see at this point from specifically him, but the rest of this core just getting more experience together, but specifically for Steph Castle, just getting more NBA minutes under his belt is a plus in the long run for the Spurs. And I mentioned the efficient shooting. You love to see a rookie in the season strong, presumptive NBA Rookie of the Year. I don't think there's much argument at this point about that. Lastly, I mentioned Keldon there. Another good game off the bench last night. Something that happened since the last time we talked earlier this week on Tuesday night. Keldon ends up setting a record that, when Jacob Tobey mentioned it Tuesday night during the game, it was hard to believe that it was actually true, but alas, Keldon Johnson, as unbelievable as this sounds to say it out loud, he ends up passing Manu for most points scored off the bench in a single season in Spurs history, which this is one of those moments where the stats don't tell the full story, obviously. I don't think many people would rush to put Keldon in the same breath as Manu, but at least on paper and in the record books, it is now Keldon Johnson, your leading scorer off the bench in a single season in Spurs history. But now, with 2 games to go, we, of course, turn our attention to hopefully what is a foundational summer, a summer where we look back on and say, that was when the Spurs finally got the pieces together, finally made the one big move with some of their chess pieces. We're going to talk a lot about that, of course, as we get closer to the NBA draft. You've heard me say it before. I expect this to be a pretty eventful summer across the NBA. So look, not just for the Spurs, but league-wide, I expect some big names to be moved and would expect, because of the assets the Spurs have, to at least be involved in some of those rumors, some of those negotiations. Before we get to the main segment, though, today, wanted to mention real quick something else that happened Tuesday night, something else that happened since the last time we talked. My Dallas Stars did the unbelievable, and not in a good way. They end up giving up 3 goals in the final minute of the game against the Canucks and lose 6-5 in overtime. And the only reason I even mention it, the Stars are chasing the Jets for the divisional title. Doesn't look like they're going to have enough to get there, which would mean they're going to have to play Colorado early first round and have a much harder playoff route. And so looking back, whatever this Stars season, wherever it does end in the playoffs, whatever round they make it, hopefully they lift the Stanley Cup. But I think this is one of those games where you're going to circle back to this game and say this was a motivating factor to get them to wait, because they haven't been playing that great of hockey, but they've still been winning games. And Tuesday night, it came back to bite them in the most unimaginable fashion ever. So I think that's the kind of game where you either say, that was our final wake-up call before we got it all together going into the playoffs, or that was the beginning of the end of this year as they gear up, hopefully for a deep run. It's either going to motivate or destroy. And with the veteran leadership they have and the hunger they have in that locker room, I'm leaning motivate, but I could easily be talked into that's the kind of loss that just hangs with you at least for a calendar year or a few months to in the least. But not going to bog down too much with hockey. We got a lot of playoff hockey to talk about coming up. Something else we have a lot to talk about, even though there's not going to be Spurs and there's probably not going to be Mavs past the play-in. We're going to talk a lot of NBA playoffs. The NBA Western Conference this year was unpredictable in ways that I wouldn't have even started to guess at the beginning of the year. If you had told me, I mean, obviously the Luka trade, we're going to talk quite a bit about that, but just the coaches' firings that have taken place in the last month of the season by playoff teams, just an insane year for the NBA Western Conference. But of course, the most insane thing to come out of all of it was the Luka trade. And I'm going to have my conversation with Tobey here in the main segment. But since the roommate is here with me, I thought she could serve as the perfect lead-in because I would love to peel back the curtain. I wouldn't do a good job of describing what it was like around this house the week and month right after the Luka trade. So I thought we would get it from a more of a unbiased perspective, because I would say I was upset, but I wouldn't say I was sulking around or...
It depends on the week.
Okay.
Or day,
yeah. Well, since you're stepping up to the mic now, what was it like being under the same roof as me for the 10 days after the Luka trade?
Well, I can't remember exactly how many phases of like grief there are, but at first it was shock. It was, no, that can't be real. That's the most insane thing I've ever heard. That's absolutely not real. Then it was real and it was still shock, but kind of anger. Then maybe sadness. I don't remember which came first, but yeah, I mean, it was stages of literal grief. Like it just can't be.
I feel like it went from shock, and like you said, like all of us, like Tobey and I were talking about the week that it happened. You know, the fact that the reporter has to tweet out that he wasn't hacked tells you how shocking it was. So shocking was absolutely the first one. I feel like I immediately went straight to anger from shocking. There wasn't like...
Oh, yeah, that's true. You abandoned fandom ship. Like, yeah. You were gone. The boat sailed. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you can ask her, because she's also my proofreader for posts and social media stuff. And there were so many posts that I didn't make that I showed her, basically declaring that the Mavs are dead to me for life. Like there is no Mavs fan for life anymore. It's Mavs are dead to me for life.
Hell, you almost bought $500 tickets just to wear a Fire Nico shirt to get kicked out of a game.
Like, yeah, that's
great.
You
were so mad.
We were on tilt. We were absolutely on tilt. But again, I think, as you'll hear with my conversation with Tobey, I don't think my initial reaction was that far off from what everyone's initial reaction. And I say everyone, this is from a Mavs fan perspective, but the amount of neutrals or Spurs fans, Rockets fans, basically everyone but Lakers fans, the amount of people, friends that I have that are fans of other teams that reached out and genuinely asking, like, man, I hope you're okay.
Which may have arguably been worse, right?
Made it way worse. Way worse.
I'm trying to mourn in peace.
Yeah, let me bury let me bury this on my own. I don't need help digging the grave. I don't need pallbearers. Like, it's bad, and I appreciate your sympathy, but I also know deep down, as much as you might tell me it's not true, I know there were some Spurs fans and Rockets fans deep down that were like, oh my God, Luka is out of our division. Luka is out of the state. Mavs fans are in shambles. Their franchise is going to be dead for a decade. This is the best thing that could happen to us as Spurs or Rockets fans.
I mean, there's always opportunity.
I will say, mainly, I think a lot of that was Rockets fans more so than Spurs fans. But when something like this happens, yeah, this is where the definition of fanatic comes into play, because sports, I would like to say sports should never stir my emotions like they did with the Luka trade. And they honestly never had in my life until the Luka trade. And I mentioned, going to have Tobey join us here in a minute. I don't think I was alone in that. And I don't think the owners, the Adelsons, the Dumonts, I think Nico knew what he was doing, but I don't think the actual owners understood just what they were taking away from the community. I mean, even you, a casual basketball fan, you understand the importance of Luka to that part of Texas.
Well, yeah. And I mean, everything that I've heard, not everything, but people are saying, and I can see how it's true. Like, the ownership group clearly doesn't care about the fan base. And that is kind of a crazy shift to make. And it's really apparent. And everybody was genuinely upset, hurt, had feelings about, and maybe they underestimated it, or maybe they didn't care. But either way, it was not a good look for a new ownership group.
If you're going to tell me they don't, I almost feel better about them not, if it's them not caring.
Right.
Because then it's not
cruel.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the fact that you made a mistake based off of ignorance. You actually did it knowing full well what you were doing. Somehow that makes me feel better about the whole situation. But I think we could all agree, at least from the Mavs fan perspective, there's nothing that will ever make this feel better, as you can hear in my conversation with Tobey here. So without further ado, I got Tobey on the line for a solid hour of talk because I wanted to hear. Tobey is a long friend of mine, a good, level-headed sports fan, not too fanatical, but absolutely cares more than he should, which is that balance, that Goldilocks zone of kind of how you should carry yourself as a fan. So sit down with Tobey for a solid hour of Luka talk. Well, that's what it sounded like last night in the American Airlines Center. And unfortunately, it only took 4 seconds for the Lakers to start shooting free throws and give the entire crowd an opportunity, give them the platform to start the first Fire Nico chants, the first of many from last night up in Dallas in the AAC. Of course, it was Luka's first game back in Dallas, his return to Dallas. And I thought it would only be appropriate to have two kids that met in San Antonio who bonded over their shared Mavs fandom. I thought it would only be appropriate to call up my buddy Tobey and get his thoughts on last night's game. And really, it wasn't about last night. Last night was just the final culmination in this entire debacle. I mean, it's going to happen again. He's going to come back to Dallas. But this first one is the one that really, at least for me watching it last night, it really drove home the fact that he's never coming back to Dallas. And if he does, it won't be prime Luka. It won't be Luka, 26-year-old, 25-year-old having 5 all-NBA first teams already in the first. Like, that era of Dallas Mavs fandom is dead, which is why, again, I thought it was only appropriate to bring on my buddy Tobey. Some of y'all that have listened to the pod for a while, you'll remember Tobey. He is former coworker. We met actually together cutting teeth in radio here in San Antonio.
Those were the days, man, running back and forth about NBA free agency.
Yeah, those were the the first. Now that you said the first NBA free agency summer, both working together was the never trust a man from Houston.
Never trust a man from Houston. Yeah. That's right. And then Kevin Durant to the Warriors.
That's right. Yeah, golly, man, that just tells me how long I've been in San Antonio, how old I'm getting actually.
See, I've hit the reverse since I've been gone so long. I don't realize how long I've been gone until I come out there and visit. I'm like, oh, I've been gone a long time.
Yeah, but it's not sitting in a Croatian mansion broadcast like you're in Houston.
Oh yeah. It's not like I'm over here. It's also not like San Antonio was letting me build a house and then said, "Oh no, we're shipping you out" in the middle of the night.
That's correct, and that is, I mean, this is why. I mentioned, when I first moved to San Antonio, I was very staunchly, I will never root for, I respect San Antonio Spurs, but I will never root for them. It was something we shared. I feel like through some divine providence, me softening that stance over the last 5-6 years has now with the Mavs becoming the laughing stock of the league, it's made me feel better about the softening of my rigid NBA fandom over the last half decade.
I'm not gonna lie. I listened to your pod last week when you were talking about that, and it made me sick. And I'm like, what? I was like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing to cheer for in Dallas right now.
No,
but I have friends down here. They're like, oh, you're gonna become a Rockets fan. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm gonna be. Was it Rob Lowe wearing the NFL hat on the sideline? I'm just gonna be just NBA hat.
I'm just generic NBA fan now.
Yeah. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm maneuvering over to the WNBA. I was like, NBA fandom is really hard for me right now.
Well, you look at some of those broadcast numbers, some of those viewership numbers, and I don't think you're alone in that to begin with.
That's what I'm saying. Get in on the ground level and work your way up.
See, it's funny you mentioned the fandom, and if y'all missed it a couple podcasts ago, I was talking about, I think when you grow up in a certain area that has pro teams, they will forever be your childhood teams. Like the Mavs I played a high school basketball game on the court at Reunion Arena before a Mavs game. My little brother played on the court at American Airlines Center before a Mavs game back when we were in high school. The Mavs will always be connected to me in perpetuity for the rest of my life. They are my childhood team. They will always have a spot on the shelf, a spot on the mantle. But that doesn't mean that spot has to stay prominently displayed right in the middle of the mantle. And I think that's where, I was talking last week about how, 18 years I lived in the DFW market in my hometown growing up, closing in on 15 years now in San Antonio. So we're starting to get to that tipping point where San Antonio is the city I've lived in the most years of my life. And if you only count sports consciousness, I became sports conscious at 8-10 years old of actually really understanding, the leagues and what I'm rooting for. If you only count sports consciousness, then I'm well past that already. San Antonio is the city where
but at the same time, I'm sure if I asked your mom or dad, hey, I know you have a picture of Sam wearing a Cowboys jersey when he's 4 years old.
Oh, of course.
Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it wasn't ingrained into you.
Well, that's also, when I was 4 years old, that was the last time the Cowboys actually won playoff games.
Man, I'm so glad I checked out on the NFL outside of fantasy football because I could not imagine being Cowboys and Mavericks fan, diehard both right now. It would be the worst time of my life.
It would be terrible. And I think if you just flash back 15 years ago, 2011, I moved to San Antonio. The Mavs I moved to San Antonio in February. The Mavs won their championship, their only championship that summer.
Oh, so, I was about to move to Dallas after the Mavericks won their championship, but ended up going to Texas State instead of UTA.
And hence how you end up in San Antonio.
Yeah, that's right.
So going back to that 2011 run, the Rangers had appeared in back-to-back World Series. The Mavs had just won their first championship. The Stars were hanging around. They weren't the contender they are now, but they weren't the embarrassment of the league or anything like that. They were a playoff contender every year. So back then you could tell yourself, yeah, the Cowboys are always going to be the Cowboys. They're always going to do this to me, but at least I have Mavs, Rangers, Stars to fall back on.
Oh, for sure. Especially with the Rangers. That Rangers 2010 to 14 run. They just won the World Series 2 years ago, but that 2010 to 14 run still probably higher on my fandom.
Oh, completely agree.
Just from the fun, just years of fun, half off Papa John's if they got 7+ runs.
Oh, man, I love the old Papa.
Dude, that saved me in college.
Great offense. So that was quite a bit. And they would respect it as long as you were in a Texas Rangers media market.
That's right. And so just having all that back, oh man, it was even was that the Des caught it?
Yeah. Yeah.
About that was the Des caught it 2012. Yeah. That was the Des caught it year. Right. So they had a good Dallas sports in general had a 3 to 4 year run where I'm oh man, they might be able to hit every championship in all pro sports.
Oh, I remember we genuinely talked about the 2011 year like the Mavericks winning it, the Rangers being as good as they were. There were multiple sports radio segments being done in the Metroplex about how we could own multiple, we could own 2, maybe even 3, possibly 4 championships at the same time. I mean, hopes were incredibly high.
The highest.
The analogy you just made, the comparison of what the Rangers felt like back then, 2010 to 2014, versus what it felt like 2 years ago when they won the World Series. That's kind of where Mavs fandom is right now, because I talk about this a lot, and it's something that a lot of people completely disagree with me on. But to me, the goal of winning a championship is not what sports is about. The win, absolutely, like that is the ultimate. That's what you're measuring yourself against. But if you're telling me, would you rather be a Florida Marlins fan where you miss the playoffs 9 years in a decade, but you win 1 championship? Or would you rather be a team that plays in 6 conference finals, plays in 2 NBA finals, they lose them all, never win a championship, but over the course of 8 years, you win 50 games every season. You win 2 playoff series every season. You were right there on the cusp of
in the mix.
You're in the mix. And that's where when a team doesn't win a championship, I don't immediately think this is a total and utter failure. I go back to it's the journey. It's the process. You're watching this team, whatever sport it is, you're watching them become what their ultimate form is. Sometimes that ultimate form is not a championship team, but it's way more fun to watch that journey than it is to watch your team buy 2 middle infielders in the same offseason for $500 million, Seager and Simeon. And then all of a sudden, oh, hey, we won a World Series. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. Would never give it back. But it didn't feel anywhere similar to that run with Ron Washington at the helm, 2010 through 2014, you said. And that's where the Mavs are right now. If Kyrie hadn't gotten hurt, if Gafford and Lively hadn't gotten banged up, if this team was fully healthy, they would be in they're a worse team post-trade, no question. There's no
100%
made basketball-wise that they would have been a better team than the one that made the NBA Finals last year. But if somehow that team would have made a run to the finals and beat Boston this year, I don't know of many Mavs fans that would look at that and say, oh, well, now the trade was worth it. Now, since we won this championship this year with AD, that made the trade worth it. No, you don't. You don't trade those years of watching the process develop with Luka for a 1-year win now championship. And that was best case scenario. That was never
best case. Yeah, they could win the next 3 and it still wouldn't make up for it because they just betrayed the fans on such a level. I've never seen it before. Even like you brought up the Marlins. The Marlins would have a fire sale after their 2 championships. And just everyone's coming. Everyone knew, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, it is what it is. Like, money's coming up, but no big deal. But you're literally watching the growth from conference finals 3 years ago, drop off, finals again, and then or they make the finals. And then next thing you know, I'm like, cool, back up, forward, away, maybe just one missing piece. Maybe the luck of the seeding might help us. Someone knocks off Boston. Awesome. And we get to see our son – Luka grow, continue, and build his legacy here, being the big ones.
The guy that Dirk singly put the faith of the organization into as well. I mean, every
handed him the torch.
Played how long did the Mavs have to wait to find that next replacement? Oh no, actually they played 1 year together at the end of Dirk's career. Like it was written perfectly for the Mavs to just ride that wave of Luka his entire career. I mean, we'll talk about the game, but last night, I mean, during the video tribute, I think Trae Young had the best tweet of the night, and just retweeting the video of Luka tearing up and crying beyond tearing up, and Trae Young just captions, "He was never going to leave."
Never.
Never.
I've read like clip or parts from like Tim McMahon's book where they're talking about things like, oh, they kind of spoiled him, and then new leadership with Nico came in, and he's just not a Luka guy. But I'm like, so what? This is the new NBA. Like, I might not like it, but you want to keep your superstar happy.
Yeah, and who's a Nico guy? Like, what is that? Why does that only apply to the player and not back towards the management?
Oh man, don't give me just. Oh, you're not AAU. Oh, so you're not a Nike guy. Right. Oh, you're not my guy. That's how Nico thinks, apparently, from all reports. And
what would he have felt about Anthony Edwards? Anthony Edwards is an Adidas guy. Whoa, well, we can't have that. We certainly can't have that.
It's like, but AAU. It's like I saw him. I watched him grow up. I guess I don't know. It makes no sense to me. Just from just looking at it, where when it happened, you're like, this has to be fake. This can't be real. Oh, there's a big conspiracy theory. They're moving the team. Oh, he's a secret alcoholic, and like the wheels are about to fall off. And none of this has happened yet. And it just it's only one guy.
See, running through the conspiracies. I think every great conspiracy is a good conspiracy because it has a touch of truth in it.
Yeah, just a little sprinkle.
The Luka drinking. We all remember Finley taking the beer out of his hand after they won the conference finals last year, But
when that happened, it was like a joke. People were laughing, having fun. It was just being made fun of. It wasn't serious. And now you look back and you're like, huh, it's still like a real thing.
It's a little different context now.
Yeah.
And, all of the Luka Dončić, all of the off-season videos and photos where he's, having a beer at a bistro in Europe or hitting hookah, and all of I just always go back to the fact that, okay, we knew all of that. All of those, if you had those concerns, understandable to some extent. Mm-hmm. But that guy that you're telling me now is a hookah addict and a drunk and a borderline early onset alcoholic. Yeah, that guy just led you to the NBA Finals last year. That guy led you to the conference finals with a roster that had Dwight Powell starting at center.
Dude, it's not even the fact that he led them to the finals. Like, I think everyone kind of forgets how easy the Mavericks run was to the finals. Like 6 games against Clippers, should have been 5 games against the Thunder if they don't shoot 51% from free throw line. Yeah. And then they beat the Wolves in 5. I'm like, they had a really easy run where they kind of just ran through everybody.
And not only beat the Wolves in 5, but played the defensive player of the year off the court, made him unplayable because of one person on the roster, and that was Luka.
Yeah, the gravity. And it was just like, you're out of here. I was like, get Rudy out of here. But the fact is, it just kind of got washed over, and they're like, he's unhealthy. He's always hurt or anything like this. So just look back on it, just makes zero sense basketball-wise.
No, and that's – again, the best conspiracies have a hint of truth. Having 4 calf strains in the same calendar year. Oh, that's most likely because he's out of shape. Okay, we all see that. We understand. Again, you want to tell me that's why you make the deal. That still makes no sense, even though you might be right. Yes, he's out of shape, but that guy that's out of shape is a 5-time first-team All-NBA player who just led your team to the NBA Finals the year before. It will never make any basketball sense whatsoever. But
don't fire the trainer that is worldly known as the greatest trainer in all of sports, and don't fire him just because he's boys with Luka.
Exactly. Go back to at the beginning of this season when during training camp, things that sound different or things that make you think different now. A random reporter asked Luka, how are you feeling going into the season? How are things going? And he said, well, they got rid of everybody I liked. So, and everyone laughed, and he said it with a smile, like, okay, that's fun. That's funny. And now it's like, well, was that the beginning? Like, did they know then that it was at least something they would consider, as crazy as that even sounds? Were they already coming to the conclusion that we're trading this guy by the deadline?
From what I read, they already had it planned. Like, if they didn't make the finals run, they were trading him over the summer, from what I read. And which is just like you have an all-worldly all-world talent, top 3 player. Imagine having an out-of-shape player who's still a top 3 player.
Exactly.
Quote unquote out of shape, and he's still top 3. Like that's worth every problem you have. Like, oh, he likes to drink, likes to smoke. Who cares? Kevin Durant is a known pothead, and which is fine, because he's still amazing.
You know who else liked to drink a lot when they were 25, 26 years old, living in North Dallas? Dirk Nowitzki.
Oh, man, those pictures went all platinum on, was it fake MySpace? Him and Steve Nash drunk pictures went all platinum back in the early 2000s.
And it's easy. You Google Dirk drunk and then figure out what year that is in. And Dirk openly talks about it now. Exactly. Dirk openly talks about it now of I didn't start taking care of my body correctly until I was 28, 29 years old. It took the embarrassment of the first round exit as the 1 seed. It took Dirk being publicly shamed to change his habits. Who's to say that wasn't just around the corner for Luka?
Oh yeah, like that's why he's 26, just turned 26. Right. I'm like, man, you have 10 years, at least 5 years of prime left where you can figure this out.
Yeah, and that's where it feels. I mean, I think that's where the conspiracy theories have a little bit of oxygen, because on paper, everything we just said is why this trade will never make sense in our lifetime. There will never be a logical basketball-based explanation for why the Mavs traded Luka. So that's where the conspiracy theories gain oxygen of, the Adelsons, who, first of all, going back to, Cuban selling the team, he sold them for lesser value than they should have gotten. Because
especially when you have Luka on the team.
1,000%, based off market valuation of the franchises. He accepted a lower bid because he wanted more cash involved in the bid. So he wanted more immediate payment instead of any kind of drawn out payment plan, or instead of having more of a retained interest in the franchise. So clearly tells me Cuban needed money, and not the kind of money that trickles in over the rest of his lifetime. Cuban needed money today, that day that he made the deal, so you sell the team for lesser value to a ownership group that has no ties to North Texas whatsoever. Their only interest in North Texas is potentially building a casino in Texas, where they've been lobbying for years to try to get legalized gambling passed, still can't get that done. So ironically, though, I think one of Miriam's sons from another marriage had interned for Cuban. So there was some familial connection, which is why I think when Mark says, well, we had a handshake agreement that I was still going to run things. Well, I think he just made a bad decision in more regret. Yeah.
I look back on that when he bringing up what you just said about him having the handshake deal. He's like, oh, I'm still going to be president of operations and all that. Then all of a sudden I was like, well, why would anyone sell you the team not being able to control what they own? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Value of that to them. And the only reason I bought into it slightly was the idea that the Adelsons, the NBA team, is just a vessel for them to get gambling into Texas. So
and they were open about it too. They were like, hey, we don't know NBA.
Right.
Like he said, I brought them in because they're casino people. They're keeping me around because I'm a basketball guy.
And that's where, ironically, the basketball guy that and Nico ends up being the scapegoat in all of this. I think Cuban is getting off incredibly lightly.
I 100% agree with you. Cuban, if you're going to pinpoint whose fault this is, I could just point at him and you brought the wolves into the hen house.
Yep, and that's where it starts.
Yeah, if you didn't bring them in and you were essentially the safeguard against them, once you're gone, what do you think was going to happen?
Yeah, they self-admittedly don't know anything about basketball, so just play it out as Cuban hired Nico before he sold the team. Nico was there. Nico was doing a good job.
But was he doing a good job?
Well, I think you have to say, I think the addition of PJ and Gafford aligned with what fits well next to Luka.
I agree, but also he didn't want that. He wanted Kyle Kuzma.
He wanted Kuzma, of course.
And then fell into it.
But again, I think every GM, you can look at deals that the best GMs out there, some of their best deals ever are the ones that they weren't able to get done. Like, it's not like the logic was still somewhat there. I mean, viewing Kuzma as a better version of PJ Washington, and then you end up settling for a lesser individual player on paper in PJ, but the addition of Gafford. I mean, Gafford was a castaway multiple times in his career at the age of 26. I mean, he was a guy that was the Bulls. He was making 11, 12 million a year. And there were a lot of executives across the league that viewed that as a bad contract. But all of a sudden you put him next to Luka and he's playing to his absolute strengths of rim running and blocking shots, and his field goal percentage shoots up, and all of a sudden on paper, Gafford looks like a much better player on paper than he did 2 years ago, solely because of the pairing with Luka. So I think you have to give, I don't think you can hold Jalen Brunson walking out of the door against Nico. That was
I will.
The Cuban bumbled that twice before Nico was even hired. I mean, the two opportunities he had to extend Brunson were before Nico was brought in. And then Nico was a part of the final decision.
The original second-round contract on Brunson, okay. But then that summer before they made the conference finals, Nico was in charge. Could have done something, but also I was anti-Jalen Brunson. But when you look back on it now and you're like, oh, two All-NBA guys we drafted in the same draft, first and second round, are both gone on Nico's watch. Makes you worry, makes you think. And then there's the Dennis Lindsey. Like, everyone's talking.
The Dennis Lindsey subtraction is a big one.
That's the one where no one really thought. I know I didn't think about it, but once he left, everything kind of just fell off. Like, who approved this Grant Williams sign and trade? Like, who did that?
I mean, I guess if we're assigning blame, that's probably a Nico.
That's got to be a Nico thing.
Yeah.
But it's just like Dennis Lindsey was the one who pushed for Lively, just because he had his experience with Gobert. He's like, oh, we can work with this kid.
Yeah, and now it should be said Dennis Lindsey is the architect of that Pistons revival.
Yeah, GM of the year from what they've done for the Pistons since hiring him and hiring a new head coach.
Yeah, no question. I think the top pyramid of the blame game goes to Cuban. But
for sure.
Nico now is will forever be the scapegoat. The fact that this is where, thinking about the politics of the Adelsons now, were they aware, like, they're in line to lose over $1 billion. I was reading this report in I think it was Dallas Morning News yesterday, talking about just how much the Mavericks value has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Talking merchandise sales, season ticket renewals, attendance at games, the
sponsorships,
exactly.
They said they lost like 9 figures off of that.
And that's only going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like 2 years from now, all of a sudden, I think it's going to be a massive return of the prodigal fans that you have now run off, which is where, I think the bigger question to me is, for an average, I had bunch of friends and family that were at the game last night, and it's been fun for me to talk to them just about, where is your personal fandom now, and what does it even look like in the future? Is that, if they fire Nico, what does that even do for you at this point personally as a fan? If the Adelsons sell the team, or if the NBA says, y'all are now this fan base, we're going to give you an expansion team to build in Vegas, so y'all can just go back to your Vegas, you can have your gambling, you can do all that, and then we're going to find a new ownership group for the Mavs. Does none of that, makes it any easier to see the product on the court night in.
It's not the fact that it's going to make it easier, but like if you got a cancer, you got to cut it out. And Nico Kidd are definitely the cancer you got to cut out. Where it's basically if they do get fired, I see the Dumonts, or is Dumont's right, or is it DuPont? I'm thinking the oil rig company.
Yeah, Dumont.
Dumont's they're going to have to come out, take it, and just say we made a mistake, we were swindled, we believed in something, we were led astray. So basically, whatever happened, Nico's about to just get, whenever he does get fired, because there's no way he's going to be able to keep his job for the next 2 years. And everything's going to come out from ownership. I'm not saying it's true or not, but everything's going to come out just dragging him for being like, he swindled us, he made us believe something else, he lied to us. Anything like this is just going to ruin his reputation in NBA circles. But it won't even matter because, like you said, like it's not going to change anything for the fans, especially when they go see him get a special advisor job with the Los Angeles Lakers in like 3 years.
Yeah,
100%. Just getting a quick paycheck to hang out with the Lakers for a little while, and like nothing's going to change.
Although I could see the Lakers not doing that because Luka hates Nico so much. So it's this weird like, thank you for what you did for us, but no, we can't hire you because the guy off so bad is now our face of our franchise. So thanks for what you did in the past, but no, there's not a job for you here.
But here's a check for X amount. Just write what you need. Yeah, blank check it for you.
You can be an offsite consultant. And
there's just money. We were talking about fanhood earlier too when it comes to this. The generational gap too with the young fans Luka brought in the Dallas area, like they're kids, like young adults. And a lot of the younger generation cheer for players, not teams. Yep. And so that's why you saw an influx of Lakers jerseys last night, where the fans like us that have been like, oh, this is who you cheer for, this is what you're raised on, grew up on, all that. That's kind of going to be – I think that's going to die out because I don't think they realize the backlash of them running all of those fans out too.
No, I don't think there's the era of sports fandom in terms of the generation. Like – I left junior year prom early to watch the Mavs get embarrassed by Bobby Jackson, Mike Bibby, and Chris Webber in a playoff series against the Kings back in 02, 03. Those years. Like the kids aren't doing that anymore. As soon as you trade Luka, I could care less about the Mavs. And you mentioned the Lakers jerseys in the stands. I don't like that either. There's no scenario whatsoever that I would ever root for the Lakers. Like last night, I wanted Luka to score 100, but I still wanted the Mavs to win. Even like maybe this first game, sure, I'm okay with the Lakers winning it, but I don't want to see Luka just dominate the Mavs record-wise the rest of his career because I'm not a Lakers fan. I don't want to see the Lakers do well. I want to see my guy do well. The team wise, I hope they crater. I hope it gets so bad they end up trading him somewhere else.
I hear you on the Lakers part. Like they're up there for all-time teams I would just refuse to cheer for. But I see why so many people left just to like be Luka fans. If Luka leaves the Lakers, if they trade him or he leaves free agency, whatever, if he goes to Charlotte Hornets, like you're going to see these same fans wearing Hornets jerseys.
Sure, but I don't think I would ever see you or I wear a Thunder jersey if he goes.
Oh, absolutely not. I wouldn't wear. I'm never gonna buy a Luka jersey ever. Like, any team he goes for, it's over. Like it's done. I'm out. Like I'm cheering for you constantly. Like I hope you do well, just not at the expense of my team.
How did you handle the Michael Finley in career saga? When they amnestied him. It was very similar where Finley didn't decide to leave, just like Luka didn't decide to leave. The organization said, Finley, you are cut. You are no longer.
Can I curse on here?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay. Eat shit, Mike Finley. When he went and signed with the San Antonio Spurs, I was furious.
Really?
Maybe don't stink in the playoffs every year.
See, my immediate going back then, it was like, yeah, that makes – if I'm Finley – that makes a lot of sense. You've seen them win championships. You've seen them be the final hurdle for your Mavs in Western Conference Finals, in second round matchups. Like this team just did you dirty. Yeah, absolutely go to San Antonio and make it hurt for Cuban and the brain trust in Dallas. That one,
we were like 17, 18 when that happened. I just remember being a young fan. I'm like, what? It's like they amnestied him. I don't even know what that means, but he went to the Spurs. Never want to see this dude again in my life.
Yeah, I think there's a huge difference between like certain teams. The Lakers are just the worst possible team for him to go to. I think that's what makes it so hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, Oklahoma City, and this is the other thing, the fact that they didn't shop him because they didn't, as Nico said in the press conference, we knew we were going to have a tumultuous summer ahead of us if we kept Luka on the roster.
That's who's we, dude. Yeah, but like also who's we? No one was thinking of that. Everyone was like, anytime something got reported, they're like, oh, teams are lining up for if Luka becomes a free agent in a couple of years, that all of it would get shot down. We're like, no chance. See you later. Yeah,
and usually where agents are stoking those flames, it wasn't happening with Luka. We're seeing it happen more with Giannis over the last 2 years. And granted, I mean, later in his career, 6 years ahead career-wise, but there was none of that smoke coming from Dallas. There was, again, like the Trae Young tweet, he was never going to leave. It was.
I never thought he would leave unless it was just something like XYZ happened where it was out of his control, where team fumbled this, team fumbled that. They weren't able to get these players or they made bad trades. I was like, okay, if he left it as like early when Dirk and like before 2011 or right after 2011, there was rumors of him leaving possibly, where you're like, okay, I get it. You did everything you could. There's no trust here. Everyone would understand.
Yeah, you paid your dues.
Yeah, you paid your dues. You did everything you could. Like if Dirk ever left and never won a championship, fans would still like adore him in Dallas.
Yeah, no, Madonna is the perfect example of that. The fact that Madonna forced his way off the Stars at the end of his career because he wanted to try to win another cup, and he ends up playing for the Red Wings of all teams. And there were some upset fans in the few years, during, as he was traded and in the few years he had left in the league. But Madonna has a statue in front of the AAC right now, right across from Dirk's, because at the end of the day, the fans understood, like, oh yeah, go chase another championship.
Yes.
We're not ready to win, and you are deserving of that.
And these guys weren't terrible, but they were on the tail end of their primes too, where you're just like, time's running out. Not a 25-year-old stud who's been first team All-NBA 95% of his NBA career.
Yeah. No, these guys they just don't fall out of trees. Like even if somehow the Mavs hit in the draft lottery, say they lose in the play-in, which I want to ask you about that, what your even hopes are for the play-in. They lose in the play-in, they keep a lottery pick, and somehow by the grace of God, the NBA freezes the envelope again like they did with Ewing, and the Mavs get Cooper Flag. I would still rather have current Luka.
Yes, prime Luka.
Next, you're telling me, oh, okay, well, you just got screwed out. Your team made a dumb decision and traded Luka, but you got incredibly lucky and you got the quote-unquote next guy in Cooper Flag. No, I would still, if 18, 19-year-old Cooper Flag or 26-year-old Luka, I'm still going Luka every single time. And the odds, the Cooper Flag odds, that's not happening. I mean, they're so minuscule.
I mean, the Mavericks are due. We've never moved up in the draft ever. So we got to be due. I hope. Yeah. This won't be it, but it's going to be a year we get a top pick finally, and then it's a terrible player.
Here's luckily, even if the Mavs were able to move up into the back half of the top 10, with the way this draft class is so strong on paper, assuming you make the right decision and don't take Johnny Flynn when you should have taken Steph Curry. Shout out Con, the old Minnesota GM.
I feel bad for him because the Rubio pick was the right pick, but the Flynn pick was the bad pick.
Yeah, that's the one that killed him. Well, yeah, the fact that it was, if you're going to take 2 point guards, the fact that one of those wasn't Steph Curry. That's the other killer.
Like Steph and Rubio would have been fine. It's like Flynn had a hot Big East tournament and national tournament, and that's what built that's what built him up.
And he was a big recruit, but it wasn't like he was a top 5 guy in his high school class either. But even this is the thing now at this point, as long as Nico is holding on to that job, I think it would take the Mavs, if they got the first pick in the draft, I think Nico would take Cooper Flagg. If they got the second pick in the draft, if somehow miraculously they moved up all the way to number 2, Nico would trade that pick for Kevin Durant this summer.
A package of Kevin Durant and Grayson Allen, and because he knows his window's only 2 years. After 2026, he's toast because he has no picks. The Mavericks are about to have the worst. Once he's fired, it's gonna be the worst job in NBA to take because there's nothing to build with.
Yeah,
you have no young stars, no assets, all old all NBA guys who just aren't all NBA guys anymore.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. I mean, going back, we'll wrap up on the Luka talk, but Cuban said it in an interview recently of, look, I understand if you're going to make that decision, you're going to make the decision, but you got to get more back for him. So even the fact that, okay, we have zeroed in, we want Anthony Davis in return as part of this deal. Anthony Davis is a great player. He's top 10, top 12 in the league when he's healthy.
Fair. Yeah.
But he's also a man with the nickname of street clothes because he's telling me part of the scared to give Luka the Supermax deal is because Joel Embiid not be available on a Supermax contract. You tell me you have all these concerns about his drinking, about his so then you can get a guy that is barely able to play 60 NBA games every season his entire career. 60, I think 68 is an average number for him. And
he only looked all worldly in the bubble.
Yeah.
The bubble's the only time you're like, oh, he finally put it together. It's been 10 years. He put it together. And as soon as everyone got out of that bubble, went right back to who he was.
Right back. And again, who he was is still an incredibly valuable player, but on this just 1-for-1 AD versus Luka, there's nowhere close to similar value. So you say you want AD in the trade. Well, let's look at what else the Lakers have. Well, they have 2 first-round picks. Oh, okay. Well, we'll take one of those,
which won't even matter because they're going to have Luka on the team.
1,000%. But even just in headline or just in principle, you have to get both of those first-round picks.
You have to get everything. Put protections on them. Do whatever. You just have to have the optics of, we got actual assets.
We got everything they could give us. The fact that Austin Reeves, the fact that it ended up being Max Christie instead of Austin Reeves. So
it should have been Max Christie and Austin Reeves. I'm not even an Austin Reeves guy. No, not even an Austin Reeves fan. But the fact that you didn't get him because you were afraid, if we give up Reeves, we have to tell Luka about the trade, and he's going to get you fired before the deal goes down.
And what you're referencing there is the fact that the agents, specifically Nico, the 2 GMs, Nico and Pelinka, and talking with the agents, specifically said, we're not negotiating through the agents. We're not letting this get out to them. We're going to make this deal and then tell the agents the deal is done, instead of having any kind of negotiation to get a better haul. That was how Pelinka got Nico over, basically leveraged him to be like, oh, no, you can't tell anybody about this. We got to get the deal done now. And so that's how Austin Reeves ends up not being involved in the deal. So at the end of the day, trade was always going to be dumb. Even if you had contacted Oklahoma City or San Antonio and said, literally, you have 13 first-round picks over the next 6 years. Give me 10 of them. That still wouldn't have been a deal that I would want to see done, but I would rather have the hope of future prosperity than a 32-year-old Anthony Davis and Max Christie, who
See, I'm the opposite. I don't like picks. Everyone likes having a lot of draft picks until it's time to actually draft the people. Mainly because I don't trust anyone in the front office to draft anyone, just because it's been 25 plus years of fanhood, 30 years, and it's never been a good draft for Dallas Mavericks. Devin Harris, Josh Howard, Marquise Daniels.
Antoine Jameson was a draft day trade.
Yeah, he was a draft day trade. So, like, all of our actual picks have outside of Luka and Brunson have never been great.
I mean, they made the trade.
They traded for Dirk. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. But at the same time, just like drafting is just like, oh, the picks are good to package and trade. And for me, that's just my philosophy.
The biggest thing, the way I look at it is it provides you more flexibility.
Yes.
Having AD on this roster doesn't provide any flexibility. Having 7 or 8 future first round picks of varying value, that provides you more flexibility.
That's fair.
Over the next 3 years. Because now the Mavs over the next 3 years are Anthony Davis, who's locked into a 4-year extension after this one, or maybe 3-year with this one being the 4th year. Kyrie Irving, who now is either going to opt in to the last year of his deal because of the injury, or there's no way the Mavs don't try to come.
They have to pay him.
Extension with him, because it's not like that money is going to come off your books and you can sign anybody else. They're over the cap. So Kyrie's coming back in some form or fashion. And then it's about the ill-fitting pieces like Gafford, like PJ Washington, like Klay Thompson, all these guys that were specifically brought in to play with Luka Dončić. Now you're having to piece them around Anthony Davis. So that's where the flexibility is the word I come back to, because if you had gotten a more picks-based deal, then you're complete teardown. Then you're trading Gafford and PJ, and you're completely starting over. They're trying to convince us that they didn't get actually worse than they really did through this trade. And again, the Kyrie injury screws up all of this hypothetical conversation, because they wouldn't have been a championship contender with a healthy Kyrie, but they would have been way more interesting going into the playoffs. And that's the part that drives me the most insane. They represented the Western Conference in the finals last year. This year, they should have been smack in the middle of this insane Western Conference race. Like
when healthy, they had the best record. Like when their whole starting five was healthy, they just never got healthy.
Yeah, and obviously, Oklahoma City looks the best. They are the best regular season, no question. But there's still massive questions about how that unit is going to win playoff series.
Yeah, they're not built for playoffs, I'll tell you that much.
Not yet. I mean, Hartenstein helps a lot with the size, but it's his first run through the playoffs with them this year. Houston, again, I think is a paper tiger in a lot of ways, where they haven't been through any postseason battles together. Mm-hmm. And there's your top 2 seeds. Seeds 3 through 8 are all teams that absolutely would have had just as good a chance to represent the West in the finals as the Mavs would have. I
think those seeds fired their coach.
Again, the craziness of the Western Conference this year. Luka traded midseason. Memphis fires Taylor Jenkins with a month to go, and Denver fires Mike Malone and Calvin Booth, former Mavs.
Shout out to Calvin Booth in 2001.
That's right. In Utah, that first playoff series Dirk ever won. Booth was Denver's GM, so they fire him and Malone on the same day, clear house with 10 days to go in the season.
I weirdly respect that. They're like, oh, we're not picking a side. Y'all are both fired.
Yeah, no, again, maybe Dumont can look at that as inspiration to tell Nico and J-Kid, guys, it was a good but you've completely screwed up our future and our investment, and we are money people, and you have made us lose significant amounts of money. Y'all are both gone.
I don't care how rich, wealthy you are. If you're going to sit there at games and hear them yell, every fan scream, fire Nico, and everything online, all the discourses, this is the worst trade in sports history. Like, you have to be seeing that, and it has to be eating at you. There's just no way you just like, no big deal. These fans don't know what they're talking about. There's no way that goes through your mind after, what, are we on almost 2 months since the trade?
Yeah. Or let me propose the idea. He might just have a giant humiliation kink, and he might actually be enjoying the hell out of, because at the end of the day, Nico feels, he personally knows he is the smartest guy in any room he walks into. He has that aura. That's who he's always been. That's who he was at Nike. That's how he fumbled the Steph Curry presentation at Nike. That's why Steph Curry's at Under Armour, because Nico thought he was smarter than he actually was. Those kinds of guys, somehow I don't understand it. I could never understand it. But sometimes those guys like having the rest of the world. I mean, it's in a way, it's Jerry Jones in a lot of ways, of like, everyone else out there thinks I'm the idiot, but I know what I'm doing is right. I know what I'm doing is the smartest. And so it forms this weird humiliation kink where, like, oh yeah, let me hear from everybody how bad I am at my job as I continue to do it day in and day out. I think there could be something there.
He's like, don't boo me. I've seen what makes y'all cheer. Like anything like that, or just part of his Hollywood ritual. I don't know, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. That's never gonna. I'm never gonna get closure on this ever in my life.
I think we're coming up against it here. I think you just nailed it. It's never going to make sense, which is why it's never going to have any closure. It's just always going to be the wound that won't heal. The only way I could ever see myself gaining any kind of closure is we get, solid leaks of emails from the league office to the Adelsons telling them, we will approve your ownership. We will approve Cuban's sale of the team to you if you trade Luka to the Lakers within 12 calendar months.
Yes, anything like that.
It has to be something that concrete to explain it, where I will get any closure from this. Because you started this at the top of this talking about there is no trade that I can think of in my lifetime that compares to the absurdity level of this one.
No, like the Kawhi one floored me a little bit, but it wasn't flooring. It was like more laughing, like, oh man, this is what y'all get. Built not bought when Kawhi got traded from the Spurs to Toronto. I was like, oh, look what built not bought gets you.
But it was at least a rift between. Because there was a rift there.
There was tea leaves there. You saw a little bit of things, and just not in the middle of the night. I'll tell you, a buddy of mine called me, and the only time he's ever called, we're texting, guys. He called me. The only time I ever got a call from him is when he got shot like 10 years ago.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And so I just remember, I asked, I picked up, I was like, did you get shot? And he was just like, oh. It's like, did you get shot? Like, why are you calling me at midnight? And he's like, oh, you're going to feel like you got shot when you see what happened. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then he sends me the link of the Shams tweet. And I'm like, oh, that's fake. That's not real. There's no way. This is
and then immediately Shams followed that tweet up with another tweet that said, guys, I haven't been hacked. This is real. This is happening.
Oh man, I can't believe he wasn't hacked. I remember for hours, just like, it's not real. It's fake. Like, no one would ever do that. Like, no one would ever trade this guy for street clothes. It makes no sense.
I think the perfect last night, the perfect quote to come out of all of that was Jason Kidd saying, well, some people are comparing it to the trade for Babe Ruth, so that's kind of cool. Like, no, that's not cool. That's cool for Yankees fans, but you work for the Red Sox, you jackass.
Like, you're missing the whole point when people say that. It's not supposed to be clever or funny, man. There's no wittiness to this. I think he's trying to ham it up. I'm like, no, like, there's no funny part to this. This is like, you ruined the team for decades.
And that is what the responsibility that Nico had in that position, that is what he failed to understand. You have ruined the team for a city for decades. And in the first he won't do press conferences at home. He won't do press conferences in Dallas. But right after they made the trade, he did the press conference. I think they were on the road in Philly or somewhere.
Cleveland.
And he walks into the room and he goes, there's a lot more people here than usual. Did something big happen? And it's like, dude.
Read the room.
He can't. That's where I'm telling you. It's a humiliation king. Like, he's getting off on this every night, knowing that he achieved personal success to gain the power to make this kind of decision that affected millions of people. I think that's the part he enjoys about the job, is just having that power, not
100% power.
The right decision with said power.
I remember telling you this right after the trade happened, because I told some other friends who are a little bit younger than us who are Mavericks fans. I'm like, a lot of people don't remember the 90s Mavericks run, and that was all-time bad sports run for any team, any league, and I am terrified.
Professional sports for any league, any play, anyway.
And there's nothing even to show for it. They're like, they didn't get a bunch of top picks. Even the top picks they did get were like Jason Kidd. They traded within 2 years. Like, all-time bad run, and I'm like, we're about 2 years away from that happening again.
The only thing they had to show for it was Gary Trent Jr. pointing out women in the crowd for his dad to go talk to, so that then they could share later that night. That is a true story. That was the 90s Mavericks. That was what we got. We got Dennis Rodman refusing to leave the court, sitting cross-legged at the free throw line after getting ejected. We got scout nights that I would go to, Boy Scout nights, where the arena, the only way they could get people in the arena was have like healthcare workers night, and the whole arena would just be nurses, and like no one else went. So when it was Boy Scout night, it was all Boy Scouts, and it was only halfway, a third of the way full.
The love triangle. So don't forget the love triangle with Tony Braxton too.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, the again. Could have had something, but 90s Mavericks curse. Tony Braxton gets in the middle of the love triangle, metaphorically, so to speak. The one thing I don't like, obviously, the fact that it's the Lakers that are going to have now, because now the West, to me, one of these two teams, Warriors or Lakers, is going to miss Oklahoma City until potentially the conference finals. Just looking at how the standings are right now, odds are one of those teams will end up getting to go through Houston. Do you trust Houston to beat the Lakers now with Luka and LeBron? Do you trust Houston to beat the Warriors with now?
I trust Houston for one series. They're going to be that team that's too young to know any better, but once it starts getting deeper, and then you're like, oh man, y'all really don't have a go-to guy in the clutch that can create for other people. And I can see them handling the Lakers in five. Like,
seven seed would be Memphis or Minnesota, someone like that.
Yeah.
First round.
Yeah, I think Minnesota, I think, would give them problems a little bit, just because Minnesota has size.
Yeah.
But if they played the Lakers, I think they would run the Lakers off in 5, just because they have so many big athletic bodies and throw at Luka and LeBron. Like, those guys are so deep from 6, 7 guys. They're just like, hey, like Amin Thompson. Even Jalen Green's turn. I'm not a Jalen Green guy, but he's turned it on in the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, he's a bucket.
Where I just feel like they're good for one series, and then by round 2, just like, oh, we're not made for this moment yet.
So you have more faith in potentially Golden State than the Lakers.
Oh, 100%. Just because they've been there, they actually have a little bit more size, more depth. You have the two best, two top 5, 6 players in the world with Luka and LeBron. Like, I think you're built for a quick series where if it was a best of 5, yeah. But man, you need size in the playoffs, and they don't have that. And I think they're gonna get crushed by some teams just because of that.
And that's where the Warriors, Draymond just plays so big, but they don't have a lot of the big bodies either. I just think the West was so wide open. I mean, back at the beginning of the season, I said Denver versus Boston in the finals, and still had the most faith in Denver until earlier this last week with the Malone firing. That immediately makes me think like, well, maybe all is not right in the Mile High City. They still have the best basketball player on the face of earth. So I think I still lean, if you remove Oklahoma City from and say who besides Oklahoma City, I think I still say Denver. But it's interesting, I think we're going to see one of these old guards, one of these, kind of one final run for either the Warriors or the Lakers. I think one of those teams ends up in the conference finals against Oklahoma City. And it feels like a year where Oklahoma City is the obvious choice, which is why I think it's going to be a fluky year. I think a lot of people would say last year was a fluky year with Dallas making it all the way to the finals. I think we're going to get another run like that. I still think it might be Denver. But the way the Warriors look with Jimmy Butler, that's
what I'm saying. I'm leaning more Warriors just because it's going to be, I think this is like Steph's last real go. And I think Jimmy knows that, hey, like this is it. Like next year it's not happening. Like y'all might be on the team, but just they're getting older. And I think this is going to be like the last great run the Warriors might have.
I also think Jimmy and Draymond are the perfect kind of teammates to be around each other for 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, Draymond's been around, 15 now? Like
right,
14?
but I'm talking Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. No, well, that's Jimmy everywhere. That's just, that's Jimmy everywhere.
Exponentially more explosive next to Draymond. So,
but if they make a legit run this year and they do win the finals, I could see them being best friends for life, having a podcast in 10 years.
Question. And I think it would probably be the most entertaining piece of NBA media outside of Inside the NBA.
Yeah, it's all the smoke. It's basically all the smoke guys, but it's just they're still playing. That's what it's gonna be. If they win a championship, they're gonna be all the smoke guys in 10 years.
Just literally calling Karl Anthony Towns a pussy at like 30 minutes before they tip off to play against each other.
And he's at a funeral. He's scared to play us. Like he's literally at one of his best friends' funerals. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't care. I stand by what I said.
Man. I wish I would have said it better.
Don't we all? That's exactly how I feel after I finish recording one of these episodes. I wish I had said it better.
I wish I would have said it a little bit better.
But my man, I knew you were going to have some perspective on this Luka deal. That I knew you weren't going to run off and become a Lakers fan. No. That's what I wish I had said that better. That's what I'm trying to say.
I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I will never care about the Mavericks like I did the day before the trade.
Those years are gone. Which is why 3.5 more years, baby. And
I'll never do that either.
San Antonio, Spurs, go, baby. Come
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And with that, I think we have an ender, brother. I appreciate it as always. Need to have you on more often.
Please let me know. I'm always down to come in, shoot the shit, and talk some hoops.
Hell yeah. Well, I need an NBA playoffs correspondent, so we'll talk here in a few weeks.
Sounds good to me, brother.
Word. Peace.
Later, boom.
There it goes, folks. Thanks again to Tobey for joining me. I know it's not an easy time for Mavs fans. I appreciate his transparency and openness in talking about what can only be described as a soul-crushing, franchise-altering, fandom-altering trade. But again, thanks to Tobey. I'm going to have him on again to talk NBA playoffs and, of course, NBA draft and offseason, because if you couldn't tell, he is someone similar to myself who enjoys the business and the transactional side of sports just as much as the action on the court. So thanks again to Tobey for joining me. That will do it for today's episode. The roommate and I, once again, are running out of the house here, headed to the beach, but fear not. We're going to do a little Who Won the Internet beachside, surf side down in Port A. So be looking for that to drop sometime tomorrow. As always, appreciate y'all riding along on this thing as we continue to evolve into whatever the final state is of this podcast. We will get there together, and I appreciate y'all's support. But till then, we'll talk tomorrow.
Kids, what do we say about drugs?
Only says use drugs. Say no
Yeah!